Welcome back to Talent Hub Talk. Today I'm going to be talking through some of our findings from the 2025 ANZ Salesforce Market Survey. We've had some really great feedback so far from the survey. So if you are listening to this and haven't had a chance to have a look through yourself, then I recommend jumping on our website and downloading your copy. But I'm going to do my best to give you some other highlights today. Today, I'll be exploring the candidate side of the survey, and in a future episode, we will talk through the client side. I'm going to be going through the survey as I talk, so I'll highlight some of the key that jump out to me that I think are really interesting. I'm sure I'll miss some parts, so like I said, if you haven't had a chance yet to review yourself, I really do recommend grabbing a coffee and sitting down and having a good old read of the 59 pages. As always, just really want to thank Gemma for putting all of this together. An absolute massive effort every year that she takes on and always delivers. And the feedback has been as good as we've ever had. So I'm really, really pleased with the survey results and what we've been able to share with our audience. So like I said, there's 59 pages of information to read through, and I'm going to be focusing on the candidate side, so which is the bulk of the survey, but I'll focus on that for today. So we had a really good number of respondents. We got some really good numbers again this year across multiple different skill sets. I think we're able to cover most of the skill sets in the ecosystem. A good number of respondents from both Australia and New Zealand. So really happy with our findings. So let's dive in. The first page that I'll be talking through is the current work situation. So 57% of Salesforce professionals that we surveyed have been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for 8 years, and this is up 6% from last year. This is an interesting one because I was actually thinking to myself the other day, with a role that I have on, it's actually what I'm seeing recently. I'm not seeing much new talent and come into the market in the short term. So we saw a massive spike of new talent coming into the market through COVID. And we saw a lot of people that were getting certified and going through boot camps and things like that. But that's definitely, from what I can see, has tailed off a little bit. We see the odd person coming in, and there's definitely people that are looking to make the move, but nowhere near as many people as we have seen over the last few years. So it's really interesting that 57% of the Salesforce professionals that completed the survey have 8 or more years experience. So there are some really experienced people in the Salesforce ecosystem in ANZ now, and people that have been doing this job for a long time. The contract market has gone up slightly. So last year there were 15% of the Salesforce professionals across ANZ were in a contract role. This year it's gone up to 16%, so a slight increase in contractors. And 28% of Salesforce developers are currently working in a contract, which is the biggest contract market, which is definitely in line with what I see in the market. We see many more Salesforce developer contract roles than any other type of contract. Often that's led by things like government departments, banks, telecoms companies hiring for multiple Salesforce developers. So that doesn't surprise me at all that that's the biggest contract market in ANZ. 3% of Salesforce professionals are in between roles or immediately available, which has dropped slightly from 6% last year, which is good to see. It's good to see that less people are in between roles, although it's not great for a recruiter to obviously not have people that are immediately available. It's good to know that people are working and employed, and that the number of unemployed people has dropped from last year. Moving into the next page, Salesforce team turnover. The most frequent reason for Salesforce professionals leaving their last role was remuneration. And then 21% of people said that they left because of the pay, followed by redundancy. So 11% of people left their last role due to redundancy. Last year, the main reason for people leaving was redundancy. That's remuneration has become more important, I guess, this year. And I have seen that as well. I would say I feel a lot of people have been reaching out saying that they've not had pay rises over the last couple of years, and they might be stuck on a salary that they've been stuck on for a while. And I am sensing that there are people that are now looking to start earning more money again, and looking at opportunities to start pushing up their salary. Well, remuneration is shown to be a highly important factor when leaving a role. Only 17% said it would be the most important factor when they next look for a role. So although they might have left previous roles because of money, often people aren't necessarily saying that's the number one factor about choosing a new role, which is interesting. I think we'll see further along that flexibility is super important to people. So 25% of people said that when they next move role, flexibility will be the most important factor. So yeah, again, that's something that I'm seeing. It's very hard still to get people to want to commit to going into the office 5 days a week. People are definitely used to a flexible lifestyle now, and would choose flexibility over, would put flexibility as the most important factor over other things like salaries when they are considering between new opportunities. 58% of Salesforce professionals expect to be in their current role for at least the next 12 months, with only 13% planning to leave in the next 6 months. Not great for a recruiter to read that, but it's good to know that people are enjoying the work they're doing and hopefully feeling valued and learning and growing in their opportunities. Interestingly, Salesforce professionals are looking more frequently at job boards such as Seek, Indeed, and things like LinkedIn, with most Salesforce professionals, 29% in fact, looking at least monthly, comparing this to last year when most people only looked a couple of times a year. So I guess although people aren't necessarily planning to leave in the next 12 months based on the stats we have, I guess people are keeping an eye on what's happening in the market, maybe keeping an eye on what the salaries are paying, and maybe the benefits that companies are offering. So no harm to keep your eye on the market, even if you aren't necessarily looking to start something new anytime soon. So yeah, definitely, I always recommend that people do keep an eye on what's happening. You never know what's out there. You never know what's going to jump out to you, even if you're not necessarily unhappy in your current role. Interestingly, Salesforce functional consultants tend to look most regularly, with 44% saying they look daily or weekly, which is massive. Maybe they're getting sent through kind of a list of jobs that are suitable for their skill set or something like that, that's luring them into the platforms. But that's a massive number that are keeping their eye on the market. And then CTAs. So CTAs this year are looking a lot more frequently than they ever have before. So 2 years ago, 46% said they never looked at job boards. And this year, 77% of people said they do look, with 25% visiting weekly. So yeah, really interesting to see that CTAs are also keeping their eye on the market a lot more closely. 25% of Salesforce professionals said that the work-life balance / flexibility was the number one attraction to their current or last role. Last year, the biggest attraction to their current role was interesting projects. So like I said before, flexibility is definitely becoming the number one factor for people that have moved, or was the number one factor for people that have moved into new roles when they were considering roles, and also looking forward when people are going to consider roles in the future. Flexibility is number one in terms of what they're looking for. 92% of Salesforce professionals that we surveyed would prefer working full-time roles, full-time hours, which is it's really important for customers to know that. I think often we get customers coming to us looking for part-time people, and no, I wouldn't say often actually. It's occasional we get that, but I always say that it has to really suit a certain individual, and there are definitely people out there that want part-time hours. But the preference for 92% of Salesforce professionals across ANZ is to work full-time. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're a client and you're potentially looking to hire a part-time person, then the talent pool is going to be very reduced for people that actually want that type of work, although they definitely are out there. And some people absolutely love that part-time work and seek out those opportunities. So there are always people that want them, but the talent pool is definitely smaller. Interestingly, before I said that 16% of the market are currently contracting, which so 16% are in a contract role right now, but moving forward, 30% of Salesforce professionals said that they would prefer a contract role when they next move. The preference of type of contract is very much a daily rate contract. Only 4% of Salesforce professionals, will consider a fixed term salaried contract in their next move. This is something, again, for hiring managers, really important to understand. Fixed term contract is basically similar to a permanent role, but it has an end date. You accrue annual leave, you accrue sick leave, you're paid a salary, you're on the company's payroll directly. Pretty much everything you get is aligned to a permanent role, except you do have an end date on the contract. And typically you're paid the same kind of salary that you would be in a permanent role. A daily rate contract is when you're paid a daily rate. You don't get paid for any sick leave or holiday, but you typically are paid considerably more for those days work than you would be if you were in a fixed term contract or a permanent role. So only 4% would actually consider a fixed term contract, which is really important to know if you're one of those companies that are trying to hire people on fixed term roles. 84% of people that are interested in contract roles would only consider contracts of 6 months or more. and 34% would only seek contract if they were 12 months or more. 12 months are pretty rare. We do get them occasionally. They're often in government departments, but yeah, if you're holding out for a contract role that's 12 months or longer, then you're definitely going to miss out on a lot of the contract roles that typically are kind of 6 months, starting off at 6 months at least, and can extend, but obviously there's no guarantee of an extension. Salesforce developers, I think I said before that that was I can't remember the exact number. I think maybe 26% off the top of my head, but I think 26% of the current market, I think it was, a contracting. Interestingly, 45% of Salesforce developers said that when they next move, a contract role would be their preference. The most attractive employer type to Salesforce professionals is the private sector end user. Sorry, that's the biggest hire of contractors. So 53% of current contractors say that they're working for a private sector end user, which actually surprises me a lot, because I would have thought government department would have been very close to that, but they come in as the second biggest employer of contractors, with 28% of current contractors working within a government department in ANZ. 57% of job seekers interviewed for 2 or more jobs the last time they moved, and only 9% of Salesforce professionals were interviewing for 4 or more roles when they moved. Private end users are the biggest employers in the ANZ Salesforce ecosystem, with 38% of Salesforce professionals currently employed by one. And the second biggest employer are consulting partners, employing 33% of the talent in ANZ. 5% of the talent that responded to our survey are employed by Salesforce themselves. Like I said before, private sector end user companies are the preferred employer type for Salesforce professionals. 37% said they would most like to work for a private sector end user, and with 31% saying they would like to work for consulting partners. And 6% would ideally like to work for Salesforce itself, which has fallen from 18% of the Salesforce talent market last year, saying that they would most favor working for Salesforce. 54% of Salesforce professionals are contacted 2 or more times per month regarding new opportunities. Last year, 67% of Salesforce professionals were targeting 2 or more times per month. So the market has dipped in terms of the volume of opportunities being presented to Salesforce professionals, which I think is kind of in line with what I've seen in terms of the job volumes if we look across the last 12 months. 4% of Salesforce developers that we surveyed are contacted over 9 times per month. Last year, 9% of Salesforce developers were contacted over 9 times per month. So again, there's been a drop. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. I think, and also it could be when people are being approached, they might be approached by more than one recruiter for the same role, and they wouldn't necessarily know that if they hadn't had an actual conversation with the candidate as well. So yeah, it's interesting to know that the big volume of reach outs are dropping as well. Technical architects this year were the group most frequently contacted, with 14% of those we asked reported being contacted over 9 times per month. So it's still a decent number of technical architects are being approached very regularly about new opportunities. Moving into Salesforce teams and projects, we asked Salesforce platform managers how many people they're currently managing, how many direct reports. 38% of platform managers currently don't have any direct reports, with 33% having between 2 and 4 direct reports, and 21% having 10 or more. The platform manager title is really interesting and gets used by different companies to kind of mean not mean different things, but definitely be at different levels. You can get a platform manager in one company who's like a solo admin, doesn't have any Salesforce peers at all in the company, doesn't manage anyone. And then you can have a platform manager that works in a company managing a team of 15 Salesforce professionals and never doing any hands-on work themselves. So it's one of those ones that if you are looking for a platform manager role, you can find it a bit frustrating because some of the roles are way more senior than necessarily what you're looking for. Or on the flip side, they could be way more junior than the role you're looking for, but have the same title. So yeah, it can be difficult to find the right role as a platform manager. Remuneration and upskilling. 86% of Salesforce professionals wouldn't move roles unless they were securing a pay rise. So although flexibility is the most important thing for people when they are looking, they still would, most people, a considerable number of people wouldn't move unless they were securing a pay rise, which is interesting. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I think people, when they are looking for roles, they're kind of looking to achieve multiple things, not just tick one box, but they want to get a pay rise, they want to get flexibility, they want to learn, they want interesting projects. But that's a really high number. 86% of Salesforce professionals wouldn't move roles unless they were securing a pay rise. It's interesting because I have seen a few people recently move between roles for either the same or slightly less money. But that's really been driven because of fear of potentially not being that secure in their current role. So when they're looking to move, they're happy to take a bit of a hit if they're feeling more secure, and they're not necessarily worrying about things like being on the bench in a consulting partner or things like that. 23% of Salesforce professionals would be looking for an increase of 20% or more in their salary if they were to move role, which has dipped back in 2021. 37% were looking for an increase of 20% or more. So I think people are being maybe a little bit more realistic with their salary expectations when moving between roles. But obviously, there are a good, almost a quarter of the market still looking for 20% or more when they move. 35% of Salesforce professionals feel that additional Salesforce certification should be rewarded with a higher salary. This was down. So previously, last year, 43% felt that a new certification should be rewarded with a higher salary. And 43% of Salesforce professionals that we spoke to this year reported placing less value on Salesforce certifications than they have in the past. And I've definitely seen that. I think for some, like obviously the certified technical architect, things like that, people are still putting a high value on it, but I definitely don't see as much of a clamor around getting as many certs as possible. I don't necessarily feel clients are asking about them as much. I think because there's so many, it's, people lose track of, all the different options and the different types. And I think, you see people with like 30 certifications. So I think if you've studied and you've actually got experience with those areas and then you get certified, they're still valuable and worth having. But I don't necessarily feel that people are seeing them as valuable as they once did. Although 47% said that they place the same value on certifications as they had in the past. So 43% said that they don't, 47% said that they do, and then 10% said that they place more value on them than they have in the past, which is interesting. I'd love to know the view of those 10% and why they're saying that. 67% of Salesforce professionals have received a pay rise in the last 12 months. This was down slightly from last year, where 69% said that they had. 52% received a pay rise at their current company without even needing to move roles, which is good. I'm glad that people are being rewarded for their hard work and knowledge and experience. And that's also in line with last year's results. Looking at the MuleSoft market, we saw that 80% of the respondents would class themselves at lead level, which is interesting. I feel like we need some new talent coming into that space then and learning and growing. Hopefully there'll be opportunities for people that are doing that. But 80% being lead level, we can't have too many people at lead level because we need some people beneath and growing and learning from those leads. 60% of the respondents said they've been working in the MuleSoft ecosystem for 4 years or more, and 94% said that their projects, most of their projects now have a Salesforce CRM component as well. The marketing cloud market. So most marketing cloud professionals said that they thought it's important for them to have a good understanding of the Salesforce core platform. 92% said that they do feel that's important. 64% of marketing cloud professionals that we surveyed would consider a role outside of the Salesforce ecosystem, which is up from 21% last year. That is worrying, but I don't think necessarily surprising. I have seen a fair few companies that are moving from marketing cloud to things like Braze. I've had a few conversations around that recently. I'm hoping that that isn't going to be a trend that continues too much, but it's something I have seen. So and I have also seen some marketing cloud professionals move into the Braze space as well. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. I don't know much about the Braze platform, but apparently it's pretty modern, easy to use, and people seem to like it. So I wonder, it would be interesting to know, out of that 64% of marketing cloud professionals would consider a role outside of Salesforce, what they would look to go and do. I wonder what percentage would be considering something like Braze. Only 38% of marketing cloud professionals said that based on current markets and trends, that they are optimistic about the continued growth of Salesforce opportunities in their area of expertise. Last year, 50% said that they were. So it's dropped this year to only 38% being optimistic. Looking at the Salesforce developer market, 93% of Salesforce developers have used source control management tools in their current or last role. That's pretty much an expectation now. If you're not using source control tools, it might be that you're you're working as a kind of solo developer or in a very small team. But we definitely see most companies looking for people to have experience with source control tools. 36% of Salesforce developers are currently upskilling in another programmatic language. That's actually dropped from last year. 45% said they were upskilling last year. So I'm interested to understand why people have stopped upskilling. I wonder what they've seen in the ecosystem that's meant that actually they're going to focus back on Salesforce, or a decent chunk of people have stopped learning something else. 36% of Salesforce developers consider themselves to be full stack Salesforce developers. Last year, 31% said that they were full stack, and 2% of Salesforce developers we asked consider themselves to be DevOps specialists. Looking at the platform manager role now, 29% of platform managers surveyed are responsible for managing other non-Salesforce related platforms. Most Salesforce platform managers spend between 1 to 10% of their day working in a hands-on configuration and development capacity, and 29% don't do any configuration or development at all. That comes back to my point before about the different kind of platform manager roles that exist within different companies. 29% don't do any configuration at all. They're probably the ones that are managing bigger teams and not being as close to the actual day-to-day grind of the platform, but being more kind of strategic, managing the roadmap, being the face of the platform to the business, and also obviously performing that people management role. 71% of platform managers that we asked report the rate of adoption in their current/last company is high. Last year, that was 51%. So something's been positive there, where 71% are saying that the adoption is high. I'd be intrigued to know what people are doing differently, or how that has shifted. Looking at the admin role, nearly all Salesforce administrators surveyed said that they shouldn't be expected to code at all. However, 17% said that they can already code in Apex, 27% are learning, and 33% would like to learn in the future. So although they don't think they should be expected to, a decent chunk of people want to or have already started that journey. 44% of Salesforce administrators that we asked consider themselves to be at an advanced level when building Salesforce flows. I feel that different companies have different expectations of someone that would be classed as advanced. I know there are some companies out there that have really high expectations when people are building flow, and then others not so much. So yeah, I'd like to see. I'd like to understand what the bar of being advanced is, but I think yeah, it would be interesting to see how varied people's experience actually is in that space. 14% of Salesforce administrators are not responsible for deployments in their current or last role, and 49% are managing deployments using change sets, which is still really high. Like I would have expected them to be using a lot more people to be using deployment tools. 39% are using deployment tools, but 49% of Salesforce admins are still using change sets. Is yeah, that surprises me. But I guess you have got a lot of companies with like solo admins, kind of people working on their own and not necessarily maybe working in the most technical of environments. So, and change sets are probably still pretty easy for people to use. And if you're familiar with them, and you haven't got a team of people doing committing code or committing anything to deploy, then yeah, I guess you can get away with change sets still. But we're definitely seeing more and more companies looking for people with deployment experience, and even in the admin role. Salesforce administrators and their planned career path. So 28% of administrators said that they would like to go on to become a solution architect. 19% said functional consultant. 19% said platform manager. 12% business analyst. 11% developer, and 11% other. Looking at the functional consultant now, 57% of functional consultants said that they would like to go on to become a solution architect. 27% said platform manager. 12% said other. 6% said project manager, and 3% said they'd like to move into a pre-sales role. 29% of functional consultants would like to become a CTA at some stage, and 19% of these said that it's realistic that they can do that, but it is likely over 2 years away. Commerce Cloud. Most of the Commerce Cloud specialists that we surveyed have worked in the Salesforce ecosystem for over 8 years and consider themselves to be at lead level. 37% of Commerce Cloud professionals have experience in both B2C and B2B, and 12% of Commerce Cloud specialists are contacted about new opportunities over 9 times per month. All of the Commerce Cloud professionals that we surveyed said that they would like to work for a private sector end user, which I guess it makes sense in terms of you probably don't get much Commerce Cloud and things like government. I'm surprised more people haven't said Salesforce themselves. I know Salesforce have a decent number of Commerce Cloud, or have had a number of Commerce Cloud people in their teams over the years. So yeah, that's interesting that maybe wasn't ranked as higher. But yeah, I don't know the exact number for that. Looking at CTAs, 75% of CTAs that we surveyed come from a coding background, and 63% of CTAs are currently working at a consulting partner. 50% of CTAs that we surveyed were part of a CTA study group prior to passing the CTA review board. Last year, that was 44%. So there's definitely more and more of these kind of CTA study buddy groups, cohorts popping up. So I'm not surprised that number is creeping up. This year, CTAs reported spending the greatest percentage of their time in a technical architecture and delivery capacity. Last year, they reported spending most of their time in an advisory capacity. However, 63% would still like to be spending most of their time in an advisory capacity. Only 25% said they're happy spending most of their time in technical architecture and delivery capacity. So yeah, interestingly, it seems like a lot of the CTAs aren't necessarily doing the work that they would want to be doing or most enjoy doing. 63% of CTAs continue to sit further Salesforce certifications post-review board out of choice, and CTAs consider themselves to be more influenced by work-life balance and remuneration than any other factors if looking for a new role this year, which is in line with most of the job titles that we see. 63% of CTAs that we surveyed mentor aspiring CTAs, at least within their current company, which is absolutely awesome, passing on the knowledge that they have. And we asked Salesforce CTAs what the biggest benefit has been of passing the review board, and the highest numbers at 38% said more influence in the role and organization, in their role and organization. Last year, most said credibility. We asked CTAs what they see as the biggest risk to Salesforce's continued success and dominance in the market over the next 5 to 10 years. The most commonly identified risk was the complexity of implementations. As Salesforce grows, it becomes harder to deploy and maintain. 71% of respondents said this. 57% said the high cost of Salesforce products and licensing, as pricing could drive customers to alternative solutions. 43% of CTAs reported that the skill set they feel is most lacking of quality resources in their location is the technical architect role. We also asked how confident they are that Agentforce addresses the most pressing needs of the Salesforce market. And while 67% are confident, 50% are only somewhat confident. Those CTAs said that it has potential, but adoption will depend on execution and real-world use cases. Most CTAs are also confident that Salesforce Data Cloud addresses the most pressing needs of the Salesforce market, with 67% saying they were confident, which is great. I think having a decent level of confidence in Agentforce and Data Cloud are really important. CTAs know a lot better than I do, but it's good that they are feeling pretty confident, because I think obviously Salesforce are investing a lot in this space, and it's really important that Agentforce and Data Cloud are successful. We asked CTAs how beneficial they believe industry-specific solutions, e.g. Financial Services Cloud, Health Cloud, how beneficial they've been for the market. 84% said they have been beneficial, and 67% highlighted somewhat beneficial. They offer value, but customization is still required for most implementations. If you are listening to this and you're wondering what you should be upskilling in, CTAs believe Salesforce professionals in their region should focus on upskilling to meet future demand in areas of AI and automation. 67% said this, and data management and integration. So Salesforce Data Cloud CDP said 50% said this. Finally, 50% highlighted Salesforce DevOps, CI/CD, Git, DevOps Center, etc. as being important. Looking at non-certified architects, so solution and technical architects, 66% of solution and technical architects that we asked come from a coding background. I think back in the day, like when I first started recruiting in Salesforce, we used to see that developers would go on to become technical architects quite often, and more functional resources would go on to become solution architects. I see now that a lot of people from a development background are called solution architects and technical architects, but it doesn't seem to be that developers stick to the technical architecture path. So we're definitely seeing more and more people from a development background going into the solution architecture path. This year, only 38% of solution architects have aspirations to become a certified technical architect. Last year, that was 61% did want to or did have that aspiration, which is interesting. Like we're seeing less people become CTAs in Australia and New Zealand recently. Like I haven't seen a spike, or we had a period of time where a number of people became CTAs, but can't remember off the top of my head when I last saw someone become a CTA. Globally, I'm not sure. I don't pay as much attention to the global market or see things as clearly as they do locally. So it'll be interesting to see what people are doing in that space. But yeah, I wonder why people aren't necessarily seeing it as something they're striving for as much as they have in the past. Remote working. So Salesforce professionals have embraced remote working. 98% have a preference for adopting a permanent, regular remote work pattern. 2 days per week working from the office is the preferred balance for most Salesforce professionals. 38% said they prefer 2 days a week in the office. And the next biggest preference was fully remote, with 24% of people saying that they want a fully remote role. Anything over 3 days is strongly unfavored, with only 3% happy to commute to the office for any more than 3 times per week. Moving into the AI era, most Salesforce professionals consider their organization to be somewhat ready to adopt and leverage AI in Salesforce. So 38% said this. 29% believe that their organization is very ready. Most Salesforce professionals that we asked believe that AI will change the way that they work in the next 5 years. 98% said this, which is up from last year that 89% said this. Most, at 50%, believe that the changes will be moderate. 42% perceive the impact of AI on their role within Salesforce to be somewhat positive. Only 6% believe that the impact on their role will be negative. 15% believe that it will lead to mostly job displacement. But overwhelmingly, the Salesforce professionals that we asked believe that AI will lead to a mix of both job displacement or job creation within the ecosystem. 61% said it will be one or the other. Only 12% believe that it will lead to mostly job creation. CTAs are among the most positive about the change. 43% believe that there will be a significantly positive change to their own role within Salesforce. Only 14% of CTAs that we asked believe that AI will lead to job creation only, down from 33% last year. Most said a mix of both job creation and displacement, 57%. Most Salesforce professionals in general think that Agentforce and other AI-powered Salesforce tools will impact their role in the next 1 to 5 years moderately. They believe that AI will assist with some tasks, but human expertise will remain crucial. Only 3% reported feeling that AI was threatening their role, and that AI will automate key parts of their job, reducing the need for their skill set. That's good. That's positive that only 3% feel that it's a threat. Yeah, I feel as a recruiter, maybe it's more of a threat for me, but let's see how that one unfolds. Looking at Agentforce specifically, 83% of Salesforce professionals that we asked have not worked with Agentforce in a Salesforce environment yet. 16% of functional consultants that we asked have worked with Agentforce in a Salesforce environment, and 35% of Salesforce professionals haven't invested time in upskilling around Agentforce due to a lack of time available. A further 26% said that they haven't invested the time to upskill as their employer hasn't started to adopt it or been engaged to deliver a project yet, and so they don't see the need. 6% said they haven't started learning due to not having found a structured learning path. I think it's definitely something that people should be looking at now, whether or not they're on a project or going to be on a project anytime soon. Yeah, I feel like it would be silly now not to at least explore and look at ways that it could be utilized either in your current company or just something that can, as the market grows and evolves, it's something that I think a lot of companies are going to be looking for people to have some knowledge or experience in. 93% of project managers haven't yet implemented Agentforce into a Salesforce environment. Yeah, I would say so 7% have. I'd like to have a chat with all of those 7% and find out a bit more about it if I could. So if you're listening to this and you're one of the 7%, I'd love to hear more about the projects you have delivered in that space. 70% of Salesforce administrators aren't yet integrating AI into their administration work. And 57% of project managers aren't yet integrating AI into their project management and delivery processes, but plan to explore it. So this is more, not necessarily Agentforce, but looking at different AI tools and how you could use that to be better or to automate some of your job. So, for a project manager, that could be writing status reports or things like that. Of the admins that are integrating AI into their current work, 16% are automating user support and case resolution by using AI-powered chatbots to assist users and deflect common issues. Of the project managers who are, most are using it for AI-enhanced stakeholder communication, specifically leveraging AI for summarizing project updates and crafting responses. 31% of architects are integrating AI into their architectural decision-making and solutions, most by guiding AI adoption within teams and helping organizations implement AI-driven solutions in Salesforce. Yeah, I quite often hear of architects using some sort of AI, whether that's ChatGPT or another, just to assist in the early stages of planning for a project. Yeah, I know of developers that use it for getting a start with some code. So yeah, definitely there aren't people out there now using these tools outside of Salesforce as well, just to help them do their day-to-day job a lot easier. So if you're not, you should definitely be exploring ways that you can use AI just to streamline some of the things you do, to give you some other ideas, or just to get you started on some of the things you might be working on. Only 4% of architects aren't actually using AI currently, and don't see a need for it. Let's see what that says next year, because I think that 4% will be dropping, because that's all everyone's talking about right now, right? AI. So yeah, it's interesting that 4% of architects don't see a need for it. Moving into the broader Salesforce market, 57% of Salesforce professionals are optimistic about the continued growth of Salesforce opportunities in their area of expertise. Unfortunately, that was 61% last year, so it has been a little bit of a drop, but the majority of people still do feel positive about the market, which is good to see. 29% are unsure about the continued growth of Salesforce opportunities in their area of expertise in the coming 12 months, which is yeah, I hope people aren't overly worried. It's hard to predict. I think we've gone through a couple of years that have been tough for a lot of people in the market, and we are seeing some signs of things picking up. So yeah, hopefully, people will definitely see some continued growth. But yeah, let's see how things unfold as we move towards the end of the financial year and into the new financial year. 34% of Salesforce professionals that we have asked have considered a role outside of the Salesforce ecosystem in the last 24 months. Last year, it was 28% said that they had. So that's pretty alarming, because, yeah, especially the top talent, the experienced talent, the people that are really good, and we don't want to be losing those to other technology. And then at the towards the back of the candidate section, we've got lots of comments and insights from Salesforce professionals. So I won't read those out now, but again, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, definitely get a copy yourself, have a good read through, have a coffee, sit down, spend some time going through it, focus on your areas of expertise, but look more broadly at what other people are doing and thinking. And hopefully you've found some value in this episode, but also having read through the document, hopefully you get some really good insight. Like I said before, I'll be coming back to record another one around the content that we've created from the responses from Salesforce hiring managers. So keep an eye out for that. As always, I'd love any comments or questions to be directed to me. I'd love to hear what you think of the survey results. And yeah, keep tuned in for future episodes that are coming through.